Yes, unfortunately, it's really time to start talking about this offseason for Michigan State basketball. Who's going to be added to the roster? What can we expect this offseason? Talking about it with Justin Thind of 24/7 Sports. Let's go.
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week. Please rate, review, subscribe, and just get ready for this conversation with Justin Thind of 24/7 Sports. We're going to get into this offseason. He made a wonderful graphic that we are going to share on the screen here on YouTube. That's right. We are making some Locked On Spartans history. But hey, before all that, JT, can I just be melodramatic for like another 30 seconds here? Will you allow that? And by 30 seconds, I mean like 90 seconds.
Yeah, but, no, melodramatic. Oh,
me, I know. Week? Yeah, I know. I'm really getting outside my comfort zone here, but I'm gonna timestamp this. It is around lunch on Monday. Look, if you're gonna lose an Elite Eight game, said it on yesterday's show, that's how you do it. You know, I didn't want it to be a controversial finish. I didn't want it to be on a buzzer beater. Like, you never want to lose in the Elite Eight, but if you're going to do it, I guess make it pretty decisive for the other team. But still, you wake up, and it's bittersweet because it really felt like you woke up the day after this great vacation. And this great vacation that I'm referring to here is the entire season for Michigan State basketball. They raised that banner. They won the Big Ten by 3 games. And it wasn't just the fact that they did it, but oh my God, what a fun season that was, Justin. I mean, the comebacks, truly countless. I mean, you're asking me to count to a number higher than 4 great comebacks this season. So I've already lost count of how many times they had to do it this year. But the Cohen Carr highlights, the Trey Holloman highlights. I mean, it was just a blast, never truly knowing who was going to have that great game. They had 9 different leading scorers this season. It was just a really fun team. So, yes, you're proud of everything that this team accomplished. It's great that they got back to the winning culture of Michigan State basketball. But, man, that was a really fun season. And I'm just really bummed that it's over, kind of like this great vacation. You're better for going on it. But, oh, man, you're just really, really sad that it's the end of the ride. You're more mature. You're more of an adult than I am, JT, so maybe you have a more nuanced look at the season. But the day after it ends, your just, I guess, closing thoughts on the season, other than it was just so fun and it's so sad that it's over.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think nobody can really be mad at the season. I guess they could be mad that it's over and mad at the game itself and the missed layups and whatnot, but they went down swinging with the guys that gave maximum effort every single time they stepped on the court and wore a Michigan State jersey this season. And coaches had the guys ready to go all season long, and the guys gave it their all season long. So I think at the end of the day, the standard at Michigan State is a Final Four. It's something that they've done 8 out of Tom Izzo's 30 seasons here. So I think that's a fair sentiment to make. But if you're not going to at least hit the standard, you have probably done as good of a job as you possibly can. And I would say that given the last 5-6 years before this was much needed. And quote unquote, they fell short. But I think what they did was they kind of moved mountains and got the program standard back to what it has been. And for that, I think Spartan fans should be grateful. And I think, great season. And best part of it is now that we got the basketball out of the way, now it's portal season, which is really what college sports is all about. It's you get the actual action on the court out of the way, and then the fun starts once the season's over.
We were all just waiting for the season to end. Now it gets really fun. This is, just like you said, what the tradition and pride of college sports is all about, which team can outspend the others, who's tampered the best throughout the season, even before the offseason has begun. But away we go here. Let's flip the page. Let's talk about this offseason. Bummed we have to do it, but yeah, this is the world of college sports. This portal has been open for a little bit here. Tom Izzo made much to do about that, thanks to a brutal question by Stephen Brooks of 24/7 Sports at that press conference last week. How dare he ask? No, it was a fair question. It was a great answer. Guys, we're going to share this graphic that Justin Thin made in this wonderful program they call Microsoft Excel. This is on
Hey, Google Sheets. And we're all
my apologies. Whoa. I got to learn ball over here. This is a Google Sheets production. My bad. I'll edit that part out. But yeah, guys, if you're listening on the podcast right now, hopefully it's not going to be too hard to follow along with. We're just taking a look at, who's on scholarship for next season, what the starting rotation looks like, who will be back up. And yeah, I mean, I think the first things first here, and let's talk about a guy that, he really isn't on this potential rotation list for next year, and that is Jase Richardson. I said on yesterday's show, I would put it at a 90% chance that he's going to go to the NBA draft and stay in there too. The reasoning I'm so high on that isn't from what I've heard behind closed doors or anything like that. It's just a matter of fact that he's a consensus top 20 at worst pick. I've seen him all the way up in the top 10 on some sites. And the number one knock against him is that, he's just a little undersized. Is he going to get that ancient Chinese broken leg cranking surgery that's going to make him 2 inches taller in the offseason and come back to East Lansing and change his stock dramatically? I don't think so. I think he is who he is at this point. I don't know how much better he can get. I'm sure he's going to hear a lot of the same feedback, not just from a random podcaster out there, but actual NBA agents and scouts that know what they're talking about. So that's why I would suspect that he's going to leave. Do you think 90 is on the mark, JT, or where do you see Jase Richardson's departure percentage at right now?
Yeah, I would say 90 is probably accurate. 80 is probably the most optimistic I would get in terms of him going to the NBA if you're a Michigan State fan that wants him to stay. I think you have to look at it in terms of first what you said of his weakness is, as you said, the fact that he's not the biggest off guard. He isn't going to come back and add an age to his draft stock in order to gain 12 pounds.
Right.
And he's not going to grow 2 inches. So you can't really look at it as, he should come back in order to help his draft stock. That part of the equation is just not valid. Like, that's not how that sentiment is going to go. Mm-hmm. The only way that he comes back is if you think about it from the sense of the family doesn't necessarily need money. Jase Richardson seems like a smart guy that obviously played a long time in the NBA. So I'm sure they took care of the assets well over time. But I think at the end of the day, that also means that you cannot sway him to come back with money. So you're not going to be like, Jase, here's $1.5 million. You got to come back now. Like you might be able to do it some other guys that are worried about in years past, maybe leaving or staying. So that also is a negative in that sense of he doesn't have to chase the NBA money, but you're not going to be able to sway him with money either. So then it really just comes down to how much he loves Michigan State versus all of the logic that should tell him, hey, you're mostly a consensus lottery pick. Bleacher Report, which what do they know, I guess, but they have him 8th for whatever it's worth. The Tankathon big board consensus from his 12th overall. So like, you're not going to go much higher next year. You're not going to be any more efficient. It's probably not possible to be any more efficient in terms of on-court production. So I don't really know the argument for staying other than it's Michigan State and you say you want to make a Final Four versus the long list of reasons to go. So yeah, I wouldn't be too optimistic about him staying if I was a Michigan State fan that was rooting for that.
If there was anyone in the world that could, spin zone a long list of reasons to say for Jase Richardson, just for the sake of us Michigan State fans, because we have so much fun watching him, like not to be selfish, but I think it would be me. I would love to come up with reason after reason as to why he should come back and right the wrongs he had this season. But one problem, he didn't have a lot of wrongs this season. Usually, like when you want a guy to come back, like let's say Gary Harris, it's because like, there's so much untapped potential that we could see in year 2 that, you know what, maybe we didn't see all of it in year 1. No, I think we saw all of it in year 1. And like it helped deliver a Big Ten title, helped, get to the Elite Eight, reestablish winning culture. Believe me, I would love to be wrong. I would love for the 10 to 20% to kick in here. I would love for his Final Four comment to have a lot more weight than either of us actually realize.
Right.
No one's going to be happier that he comes back than Michigan State fans. But let's just all level set expectations here. Don't go to bed every night holding out much hope. And again, it is about lunchtime right now on a Monday. We have to say that because things move very fast in the world of college basketball. If you're listening to this at dinner time right now, things could have changed drastically. But that's the skinny on Jase Richardson. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Now, Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place so you can stop managing your money and start building that wealth, guys. Now, when I started using Monarch, I realized just how much money I was spending on food delivery, especially during this tournament. Let that get to the wayside a little bit. But now I'm going to budget smarter and save more because of Monarch Money. And managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Also, guys, Game Time, especially this summer, if you want to get to one of those outdoor concerts in your area, maybe a baseball game, whatever sporting event or ticketed event, head over to Game Time. They are the easiest ticketing app you could possibly use, especially when it comes to their Game Time picks. They curate the best seats with the best value right there up front on their app. And one of my favorite parts about Game Time is that this is not one of those ticketing sites or ticketing apps where, hey, great, $20 seats. 15 taps later, and oh my God, how do these just get to $90 tickets with all these surprise fees? No, with Game Time, you get the upfront cost. It is 2 taps, and then bang, the tickets are on your phone. It is so easy. You will not believe it with Game Time. Guys, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all one word, LOCKEDONCollege, for $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. It's last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. From one guy to another, as far as like percent chance that he stays or goes, we're going to go down the Xavier Booker path right now. Let me go ahead and throw that graphic up again. Yes. Now, he's kind of in the balance right here on your graphic, and I think a lot of State fans feel the same way. There's a question mark by his name because, I mean, if you thought there was portal rumors about him last year, well, they're only going to be blown up even larger this year, especially he got knocked out of the rotation when it came winning time this season. We can talk about whether that was a good decision or not. I guess we could waste time with that, but I'd rather talk about this quote right here, because if you guys remember, after they lost to North Carolina, within 15 minutes after the game, he was already on record saying that he's going to come back to Michigan State. Now, here's the quote after yesterday's game. Okay, this is from Chris Solari, tweeted this out from the Free Press, of course. Right now, I'm just kind of trying to take it in, just take everything in, and especially to cherish these last moments with the seniors. It was a long year. We all built great bonds with each other throughout the whole year, so it definitely sucks to see everything end the way it did. You look back in a few days or weeks from now, and you'll be proud of the overall picture and everything we had accomplished this year. I read through that very fast because nowhere did it say defiantly that he is coming back. It was definitely a different answer than he gave last year as far as it pertains to coming back next season. Look, it's not going to be a bombshell if he does leave, but I guess, Justin, like what percentage do you give of seeing Xavier Booker enter the portal after 2 seasons that were kind of here so far in this Lansing?
I think the important thing to note with his potential departure, and I'll throw Garrick Norman in this entire like overarching discussion as well, because I view both of them the same way in terms of Michigan State will not be pushing either kid out. That's usually what they only do. And even then, it's not a push out. It's like a kind of, hey, like we think it'd be better for you to go type of thing. If the kid's already kind of gotten their degree, like maybe a Mari Sissoko, AJ Hogarth thing, or if they just don't think from a work ethic standpoint that it's a fit and things of that nature. So I guess we've seen that a little bit with like a Pierre Brooks, Rocket Watts kind of thing, even though that was less so work ethic, more so like circle and people around stuff. But fact of the matter is, like, if there's no glaring red flag or the kid hasn't kind of already gotten their degree and like put in like a lot of time here, they're not going to really nudge anybody out. Now, anybody that's worried about that, they're like, oh no, how are we going to have room? It's important to note that scholarships in college basketball go up to 15 next season. So because of that reason, I don't think the discussion of whether or not Booker and Norman come back or leave really has any bearing on other discussions of portal needs and how much room do they have in that stuff. It's more of just a discussion in isolation of, do you want them to come back? Do you think they should come back type of thing? In that sense, I wouldn't necessarily mind if Booker and I guess Norman come back with the understanding that, hey, like Jordan Scott's going to come in and probably play ahead of Gary Norman on the wing right away. And you already were behind Kurtang on the wing if you're Norman. And then Booker, Cam Ward, at least from everything I've heard, the people are more optimistic about his ability to contribute as a freshman since anyone in the 5 years that I've been doing this.
Wow. Okay.
And the hope and the optimism in him is sky high. So he's a natural power forward. And Booker was already behind Carr and Kohler there. So, like, I don't know where the minutes would come from, even if they stay. So that's kind of the way that I kind of would frame it to them. If I'm Tom Izzo, obviously not nudging them out. Plus, if both of these kids want to stay another year or two and they get stronger and they get better, like, even better. So, like, you shouldn't want them to leave if there's a 15 scholarship sort of thing. But, like, at the end of the day, like, I don't necessarily see their path to playing time here if they stay, at least not next year. And because of that, I would kind of think they would go. But there's no like red flags or like you don't hear anything about them wanting out or not really giving it their all. So I don't know. I can't speak in certainties, even though you would kind of look at the depth chart and say, hey, you should be able to speak in certainties.
Yeah, and like with Booker too, it's equal part like where would he fit, even like, you know, with a great offseason, maybe he can hurdle a guy or something. Just really shows out in Moneyball. JT, that's the end all be all in the offseason. But on a more serious note, like the other half of it too, it's not like Xavier Booker's this big secret in college basketball, right? Like everyone knows the former McDonald's All-American's name. Like I'm sure other schools will be calling, have been calling with some offers that could entice him to go elsewhere. So I don't think it'll be a bombshell. If it happens, if he does come back, I would be a little surprised, but not as surprised I would be in a Jase Richardson. So let's just talk about, you know, who could come into this program. You know, I don't have any concrete names per se, but just positionally, who could it be? Because as we're looking at this graphic right now, or even if you just want to go through, you know, the starting rotation really quick, you know, Peters at the 1, you can do Holloman at the 2, but I think it starts right there. You know, even before you get into Carr at the 3, Kohler at the 4, Cooper at the 5, like I think right there you got your need right there at the guard. Sure. You're going to need some transfer guard. Is that the most obvious portal addition that you could think of?
Yes. So the way that I look at this offseason is with a few absolute truths. One is that no matter kind of what happens, I do not see a situation where Tom Izzo would bring in 3 transfer portal additions in one season. I just can't see that from a logical standpoint of that many new guys, plus the 2 freshmen, but like 3 portal guys coming in, especially in a year where he reinforced to himself that culture means everything. So that right there is I'm mentally capping all expectations at 2 portal additions, not based on intel, not based on sort of me being told that behind the scenes. Honestly, haven't even had any such discussions yet. The loss was yesterday. That's going to come in the coming days and weeks. But like just my feel for how they operate and the way they think is that I'm mentally capping it at 2 additions maximum. So then you have to think about the need of guard being a complete total need. There's no way to spin that. I mean, especially if Jase Richardson leaves, but even if he doesn't, because you got to replace Akins, maybe then it shifts to a bigger guard, a big wing and stuff, but you need perimeter scoring. And if Jase is gone, that has to be an off guard. It has to be. I know Holloman can play the 2 next to Fears, maybe as a starter, but with Holloman, we saw even down the stretch, like for every great game he had against Michigan, which he had 2 great games there, a lot of the other games, and I would say like 2/3 of the games out of like the last like 12 of them were not good games offensively. So I don't know if that's your starting shooting guard, but then again, Holloman's gotten better every single offseason, so potentially. Either way, I just see Holloman as your 6th man that gives you heavy minutes at shooting guard and point guard, plays a lot of minutes, but that you have to go get a starting 2 guard if Jase leaves. So that's right there, the certainty. Then if you look at the screen here for everyone watching on YouTube, there's 2 ways that I see the second need playing out. One is they go ahead and they get a warm body at center. Now, the reason I wouldn't aim any higher than that, or I wouldn't kind of expect them to aim higher, I should say, is that when Carson Cooper wasn't the greatest player his sophomore season, and we were sitting here last offseason talking about needs, they went and got Simone Zapala, who at times was okay, but not really a world beater. Now that Carson Cooper has shown that he is serviceable, I don't suddenly expect them to now go get somebody better than a warm body like Zapala. That just, there's no logic there that would kind of have your hopes any higher than that. And then now you couple that with everything that I've heard about Jesse McCullough from behind the scenes, which again, like I'm not there to verify that with my own eyes. I'm not there watching all of practices, but I've heard rave reviews about him almost unsolicited without even mentioning him.
Right.
So that leaves you kind of just a 3rd warm body spot at center. So that's the first way that I see that there being potentially that second addition. Now, the other way is you say, all right, we have those two centers I just mentioned. Then you have Jackson Kohler as a small ball 5, who that's why he's kind of the third name over there. And then Cam Ward, I was talking about this with DK this morning. He's like a 6'9", true power forward, and they think he can be a small ball center defensively. So you technically have 2 real centers and 2 small ball centers if you want to play it that way. And then at that point, you probably shift the need to wing. Somebody that slides in right behind Carr, just because I don't think you can get a starting guard and a starting wing in this economy, not with the culture and all the things that they want to do. So that's probably out of the 2 like blueprints I've laid out here and the potential ways I see it going. The one below, the one I just described second, of your second need being a wing and just rolling with 2 real centers and 2 small ball centers. And that's kind of the way that I see being most likely here sitting on the 31st of March that they probably would go.
Get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. We're talking Supply House, guys. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is a reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with the complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you will find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for that extra edge, their free Trademaster program offers exclusive perks like dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it is your turn. Join the Trademaster program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's over at supplyhouse.com. And just like a refresher for everyone too, because like there are a lot of big names that enter the portal, like Flory Badunga out of Kansas, he enters the portal. Moritz Johnson out of Illinois. These are just a few names right here. And of course, like everyone's first instinct is like, oh my God, he'd be great at Michigan State. But like we've learned here in years past that like they're not going to go get that $1.4 million center transfer. You know, like there's going to be a lot of supplemental pieces, guys from schools that you may have never even heard of before this cycle here, because it's all about the culture with Izzo. He has been loud about that, both by, you know, his quotes and his actions. Yes, he got Frankie Fiddler. That was going to be your starting wing last year, and he was for bits and parts of the season. But it's not like he took anyone's starting spot that they have developed for 2 or 3 years before that. Like, yes, Shimon Sapala, he was the starter by definition, but look at the minutes distribution. Like, it was pretty evenly spread. They're not just going to go out and get this big fish, as much as we would like them to on paper. Like, believe me, I would love Badunga over here. That'd be great, but it's just the fact of the matter, not what's going to happen. He's not going to say, hey, Carson, thanks for your 3 years here. We've done a solid job at developing you. You've had some strong work ethic. We're going to give this guy 5 times the amount of money that you're making, maybe even more, so he can start over you. So just a little refresher for the State fans. I know that it's fun to be the moth to the flame that is big names in the NIL transfer portal. It's just not going to happen this year. So what would make a successful portal cycle, though? Is it just fact of the matter? Get that guard, get that big wing. I mean, what's the 2 biggest needs for you right here?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. That the more I think about it, that second method of having a wing and rolling with like your 2 centers and your 2 small ball centers is definitely the way that I would do it. I think if you can get somebody that can at least shoot it from 3, even if they're not necessarily like an isolation shot creator, to couple with Carr at the wing spot. And then you somehow get like a dynamic scoring guard, which won't be easy at the 2, especially kind of when you're valuing culture. And you're also then targeting a position where it's a guy that has to be selfish and be a self-starter. It's a weird blend, but hey, no excuses. You want to hang another banner, you got to find a way to get it done, even though I do think it's harder than people think to do that. But I think you get a guard that can score, a wing that can shoot, and Sadie Washington continues to develop the bigs. And I think that's quite a roster right there, especially if Cam Ward is everything that we're hearing he'd be. No reason at all to not be the Big Ten favorites if you get that done.
It is a lot of sight and seeing going into this offseason too, because everything that you've heard about McCulloch, like I've heard a little bit of it too, maybe from the same person, maybe from different people, but It's also like the weird thing of like, hey, we're hearing great things about him. He's balling out in practice. But then again, if he was really this good, why was he redshirted? But then again, well, he was redshirted because they had 3 guys that already play that position. Right. So I don't know. You could put yourself into a blender of the spin zone any way you want to take it. But just know that, like there are people that are talking really high about Jesse McCulloch now, whether that means he's first team All Big Ten or if he's just a really solid redshirt freshman rotational piece. To be determined, but same with Cam Ward and Jordan Scott too. Like you're hearing really good things about them. So oh man, we'll see. But that's the off-season skinny right there. It's a big off-season, Justin. It's one of my favorite things us media folk do. Every single off-season, regardless of the sport, say it's a big one, the biggest one ever.
A lot of moving parts.
A lot of fluidity. It's gonna be interesting. So no, hey, at least it's an off-season. With the reestablished culture here, I know that, that's the free space on the bingo card here at Locked On Spartans is just talk about how the culture has been reestablished, but there's a lot to be said about that. So thank you to this year's team for bringing Michigan State back to the promised land. Definitely not going to be as anxiety-riddled as we have been in previous off seasons, just knowing that they're at a stable spot.
And we should also note that, like, the kids are in good hands right now with kind of what the staff looks like and who these guys are that are coaching and developing them these days. Like, I guess we'll see like if Doug Wojcik and that Navy head coaching vacancy heats up or things of that nature. But right now you kind of have like a grizzled seasoned vet in Wojcik. You have, in my opinion, a rising star in this industry in John Borovich. You have Sadie Washington, who I shouldn't even need to say anything else. Like he's probably one of the best assistants in all of college basketball. Thomas Kelly, who from all accounts is like that guy that really relates to the players, like that guy that is like maybe on one hand while you have like Izzo and Wojcik, like kind of really getting everything out of these kids and like really kind of motivating them. Kelly's like the guy like they kind of lean on. So like the dynamic of the staff that it's at least the way it's been presented to me, and obviously as the results have shown, I think that the staff is in as good of a hands in terms of construction wise as we've seen in a while here.
Can I just throw something on the wall really quick? And I know we're going a little over on time. Sorry about this ahead of time, but you bring up John Borovich. Like, is he the guy? Is he the predecessor? Is he him? And I know that that might just sound ridiculous because lack of head coaching experience, of course. But he's got a great offensive head on his shoulders. He's been part of some really solid staffs, whether it's been, right here at Michigan State or down at Northwestern under Chris Collins. But is it a situation where, okay, well, Izzo takes the reins for another 3, 4, 15 years and then just switches over to Borovich? Or am I just getting too caught up in these social media clips that CBS keeps on pumping out?
I don't think you'll find a bigger John Borovich fan than me.
No, I won't. That is correct.
We had him on our show last year, and
good times.
He's somebody that like the second that you kind of talk to him, that he thinks at kind of like a higher level than like a lot of people out there, and even in that industry. And I mean, as for the successor thing, like I would say he probably has a better shot than like most names I can think of. I guess then you kind of have to start like weighing it against like what are the other options, which like I don't think Dwayne Stevens is one. I don't think Montgomery is going to become one. I don't think anyone else on the staff except maybe Sadie Washington could possibly be one. So like the list is so small and he's like so bright and up and coming that the answer is yes, he is a potential successor. But then you kind of wonder let's say as a coach is 5 or 6 years from now, what if Borovich is the head coach at Central Michigan 2 years from now?
Right.
And then like, who knows how it goes? Like what if in 2 years he leads them to like a tournament and then he's at like Xavier or something? So like, I just don't even think about successor talk, but your point is a valid one to make that mental note.
It's a weird conversation to have because, with Izzo, like naturally, hey, the guy's 70 years old. He's got 1 or 2 years left, but no, it's really like he might have a full decade left. You actually quite literally don't know. So,
plus, like, with like, I know that the shine kind of wore off this year with like him not making the tournament, but like Drew Valentine with 3 starters out and like losing a bunch of games in December. He's in the NIT semifinal this upcoming week. He made it to the Atlantic 10 semifinals this past year. And last year he won the regular season Atlantic 10 in the second year of the transition. So, and who knows, the next 5 years could be horrible for him, or he could be a rising star. And who knows, there's just so much kind of up in the air. And I think everyone needs to keep proving themselves, and we'll just keep enjoying the Tom Izzo era for as long as it goes.
This is true, pure, uncut offseason talk right now. Already talking about the Izzo predecessor, whether it's 2026 or 2036. But guys, that's Justin Thin. You guys already know who he is. 24/7 Sports. Anything you want to plug before we let you go and enjoy the rest of your week, my man?
I will say that kind of a lot of the stuff we talked about will be in this annual kind of off-season primer notebook that I'll be putting out in a few days. I've already kind of written it up with all of my opinions, which I've kind of already shared here, but I want to do some more digging and maybe bake that in and maybe correct some things if I'm wrong, but we'll see. Either way, that'll be out here soon on SpartanTailgate.com. But other than that, it's great to always talk to you, Matt. It's the basketball program is back. Fun to talk about, fun to cover, and we're thankful for that.
Smiling about basketball. Look at the world that we now live in. This is great. All right, guys, we will be back. We're gonna, we'll talk about football eventually. Okay, fine. Jeez,
no rush.
Get around to it. Okay. No, there's
that wide receiver room though.
Hey, now, Chris, big play McCray. Don't sleep on him. Let's go, baby. Come on now. All right, guys. We'll be back. Take care of yourselves. Love you all. Go Green.